Welcome to the Boostly podcast. My name is Mark Simpson. This is Series 6, Episode 15, and this is the final episode of this series. What I'm going to do in this is I'm going to go through my main takeaways. I'm going to recap on every episode that we have done so far in this series. So let's just recap on the series first and foremost. So episode 1, like I mentioned at the start, we had Jason living out. Jason is probably one of the first people that I spoke to when I wanted to find out more about service accommodation. He was amazing in his time that he gave up and how he explained it all to me. And I've probably known Jason the most, next to the guest in number 2 in this world. And he's opened a lot of doors to me, to a lot of people, which has been phenomenal. I will always be appreciative of the fact for this. The episode that we go through, it just talks about what is service accommodation. He breaks down every single aspect of it. He explains why people are moving towards this model and why it is very successful, which moves us on to nicely into episode 2. Trish McGeer was the person who introduced me to Jason, probably September 2018. I've known Trish for a couple of years now, thanks to another Facebook group that we are a part of. And Trish has had a fantastic career and is always adopting and sort of bringing so much value into the property world. She has actually got a course out, and I'll make sure that I put all of the information about that course in the show notes. I'm not affiliated in any way, shape or form, but I know what she does provides so much value, and our people who are on that course, and I can see from the feedback that I've been seeing that are getting a lot of really good results from it. With Trish, what we spoke about was how to approach a landlord, how to approach an estate agent, how to pluck up the courage to go and try and get into this world. Number 3, episode 3, spoke to David and Amanda. David and Amanda's background is in property, and they've built up such a good portfolio that now they do coaching on the topic. But the reason why we spoke is all around outsourcing. How that by outsourcing the cleaning, guest relations, so many different aspects of the business, it has helped them grow. In episode 4, I spoke to Nine of Zivu. So Zivu is a up-and-coming channel manager, booking engine, property management service. And what I like about Nine is that he scratched his own itch. He's got plenty of properties that he manages with his team at Payments, and he was getting frustrated with the property management system that he was using, so much so, and he's a very clever guy, and he's gone and created a PMS that is now live, and people are using up and signing up to the properties. In fact, one of our latest websites that we have created for boutique rooms uses Zivu, and it's the first time I've been able to work with them alongside, because we've been able to connect the website to the booking engine, and it is working flawlessly at the moment. In episode 5, it was the first time that I spoke to a lady that I have listened to her podcast, followed on social media for a long time. So I was fanboying out a little bit, but it was great to have Elaine Watt from the HLS podcast on my podcast, which was great. We talked about how she got started in property, how Elaine created a podcast simply because she wanted to learn from the best. And podcast is a great way of doing so. Number 7, I went away from property and I went into the world of MLM and invited Danny Clark on. Danny, fellow Liverpool fan, unbelievably clever guy, although I wouldn't tell him that to his face because he'd get a big head. He has created a really outstanding business. I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it. Him and his wife, Liz, have created such a great community, such a great group, such a great business. I mean, we're talking multi 6 figures, probably going into 7-figure business, all around helping people grow their business, network marketing business, doesn't matter what type of business. They are helping so many people in so many different avenues, and their VIP life is definitely one I recommend that you check out if you are wanting to grow your business like tenfold. We talked about how to network without being a spammy dick. And if your Facebook is anything like mine at the moment, because I'm getting more into the service accommodation world, and because when they go on these training courses and they go on these things, they get told to just add people, like shotgun approach on Facebook to network and to find potential investors. Episode 8, Sally Kemble from SA Secrets podcast. Again, another podcast that I tune in on, I listen in. And the reason why I love Sally is because she's basically documenting her journey. Why she started, her love of art, why she chose Progressive as the training company that will teach her more about property and all the other things, why she chose Rob Moore as a sort of mentor, and why she believes that he's the right guy for her. And, you know, we talk about a lot of different things in this episode. Another good one for you to go and check out, especially if you're on the Progressive bandwagon. Episode 9, we then started part 1 of the Touchstone Education guys. Gordy was fantastic to interview, so upbeat, so positive, and he shared some really effective tips on how to get bookings for your SA property. One tip, in fact, that he shared, which you have to go and tune in to find out what it is one that I am sort of just forwarding on to other people when they say, I can't get bookings. This one tip, which takes maybe 2 hours of your life, is worked phenomenally for him, and I guarantee that it will work for others. Episode 10, possibly some could say with an unknown in the service accommodation world, but is definitely one to keep an eye on. Adam is somebody that I actually went to stay with in Birmingham back in June. Me and Laura went down, we had a couple of kid-free days, and Adam kindly invited us down in exchange for a coaching call, which we did, and it was phenomenal. And I actually went and met Adam, and we just discussed in our podcast episode what he does that's different from everybody else. And we go down the route of hospitality. We go down the route of how he gets feedback from his guests pre, during, and post stay, and how it has helped him get so many bookings based on referrals. Episode 11, part 2 of the Touchstone trifecta, as I like to call it. Paul Smith, head guy there. You'll see him a lot. You know, really in-depth interview. He really talked about some topics that I don't see many other people talking about, specifically when it comes around regulation, health and safety, the pitfalls if you don't get that. And again, we touch upon a lot of things, how his first ever experience with service accommodation was somewhere close to home to me, in Middlesbrough. Episode 12, Ahmed Khan, again, really interesting character, part of the Progressive crew, does a lot of his own thing, but we spoke about how he runs his whole business just from his iPhone. Again, he has built systems and structure in place. He attributes Guesty as a big part of him being able to run everything, all of his properties, which I think is, from what I remember, coming in at 40 plus. Due to that, in fact, now that he's grown that, he's systemized it, he's structured it, he's now looking at going into other aspects of property. Episode 13, Benjamin Portsmouth came into my world purely because when I was doing the research for Gordy, Ben reached out to me. He's a good friend of Gordy's for many a year, and I asked him some questions that I could ask Gordy that would throw him off. To be fair to Ben, I think he let him off lightly because Gordy absolutely smashed it in the interview. But after it, me and Ben got chatting, found out that Ben is an expert marketer. He teaches property people loads of direct booking tips, which is right up my alley. Finally, the one before this one, the penultimate episode, I chatted to part 3 of the Touchstone trifecta. Abby is just one of those infectious characters, and I've been trying all summer to try and get Abby on the podcast. We're able to work out a date. In fact, when we spoke, Abby was in Italy. She was doing a week away with the Touchstone crew, going through so many things. She was writing a book. She's an extremely busy lady, but she very kindly put out set time aside to chat to me about how she chooses locations. Now, the locations, like I said at the start, service accommodation is predominantly in built-up cities. because that's where the assumption is where you're going to get the most bookings. Abby has taken a different route. She's got properties in Bakewell, she's got properties in Whitby, and she's going to go to the lakes. And she chooses her areas based on where she would take her kids for a holiday, and I love